Good to see everyone. Let's make sure we're accepting, we're not leaving anyone out in the cold. Cool. Awesome. Good to see everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the fear objection, and it can come up as straight up fear. It can be uncertainty for our prospects, but we'll talk about how to pre-handle it so it doesn't show up, or essentially how can we set some hooks ahead of time so we can start pre-handling so we make our job much easier as we go. But we're also going to talk about the exact scripting and what can we use in order to handle that fear when it comes up at the end, after we drop price, after we unpack how the investment works. So let's kick things off, I guess, with a story. And last year, my girlfriend, now soon to be wife, she bought me tickets, I guess, to a skydiving class. And so she buys me these tickets. I'm like, I've been to the military before, big deal. I'm gonna pop shotguns. I've done that. It's not gonna be too much of a big deal. As the day came, I'm like, wait a second. I've obviously I flew in planes before, but this is a whole different thing, right? Or it's me, another guy on my back, and a piece of cloth, I don't know, advanced cloth or whatever. And we're diving off into the distance. So, started to get butterflies along the way. Big day comes, they train us, they unpack the equipment, we get all dressed up, we go through some basic training. And I see in front of me a tiny ass plane, like probably 6 people fit in it. It was me. So it was me, 2 instructors. One, he would strap behind me because he's the one pulling the parachute and everything. And there was another guy who would dive. So it was essentially 4, 5 people on the plane. So it started getting sketchy because I saw that it wasn't, a huge plane. It was just, I don't know, probably a can flying across the air. So butterflies getting more intense and more intense. And as we fly, the moment comes, they open the door. Now I'm scared shitless. Right? I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want to jump. I don't want to do this. And at that moment, the one instructor goes, Chris, he looks me dead in the eyes. And he's like, Chris, yeah, what's up? I'm like, scared. I'm about to shit my pants. He's like, are you with me? Yes, I am. Cool. He's like, when your feet are hanging from the plane, you're going to look up and you're going to put your hand on my shoulder. So he was gonna be strapped with me. He was behind me right here. I'm strapped to him, essentially. And he's like, you're gonna do your head just like that. You're gonna look up and you're gonna lean on my left shoulder. Cool. Door is open, and he drags me across feet, and I go to look down. He's like, Chris, like I said, look up. And I look up, and he pushes us. And off we go. And that fear turned into the most amazing experience that I've had in terms of excitement, in terms of one of the craziest experiences that I've had. Of course, we landed safely, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But what I want you to take away is when we are asking prospects to invest with us, we have to play the role of that instructor. He didn't tell me, Chris, don't be fearful. He didn't tell me, hey, Chris, it's going to be fine. Trust me. He showed me that I was part of a process. That's all he did. That I'm a part of a process that's repeatable. It's simple. And he's done it hundreds and hundreds of times. So instantly, I was put at ease and I simply followed his command. So if we switch roles, and we hop on a sales call, we have to play the role of that instructor in terms of our certainty, in terms of giving direct instructions to our prospects, and in terms of putting them at ease in the right way, not by fluffy words, chill, you don't be fearful and stuff like that, which doesn't work, but by showing them that they're part of the process. So if we look at the fear inherently, there are two sides of fear, like the science of fear. I'm not going to go too deep, but essentially it's the rational fear, which we are programmed to have rational fears. Like when in the prehistoric times we were chased by tigers, that was a rational fear. That was legit fear, because if we weren't fearful, we would be a dinner for a tiger or a lion, right? So that fear protected us, like it was a protection mechanism. But on the other side, in today's world, most fears are irrational. Like today's fears, like we fear if the wrong politician gets voted, right, and gets elected. So again, rational fear, getting killed by a bear; irrational fear, our favorite politician doesn't get elected. And before we use any tactic, any strategy, we have to accept and believe in ourselves that our prospect, it's their right to be fearful, but that fear shouldn't be there. Unless I accept that, and it becomes inherent in me, like I'm programmed not to accept the prospect to be fearful, I'm not going to be able to overcome the fear objection. Because if I accept their fear, I'm not going to be certain. And that's where it all starts, by me feeling certain that I'm the person to get them to where I want to go. Or if I'm selling something for someone else, I'm part of the team that's going to get them to where they want to go. So if I buy into their fears, all it takes, because those moments are sacred, all it takes is not looking them in the eye or saying something wrong. That trust will break. We erode that certainty, even for a few seconds, and we're done. So before anything, we have to have certainty that their fear is irrational. It's okay to have it, but we don't accept it. Everyone with me on that? It's super important. I can give you the words, but unless we have that certainty to deliver, we're going to fail. So let's dive into the more tactical stuff. When it comes to handling the fear objection, of course, we can pre-handle, as we said, and we also have fear handling strategies. So how do we pre-handle fear? And we have a few tactics to do that. One tactic is from the moment that we open the call. When a person says, for example, let's take a fitness offer, right? And they say, hey, I've been trying to lose weight for years, and I feel nothing will ever work for me because I'm diabetic, as an example. If I let that pass and I just move on to the next question, I'm gonna create fear. Because they expressed a concern, right? A lot of times it's subtle. But it might show up in terms of, we worked with agencies before, but I'd like to see what you're all about. Oh yeah, that's not a problem, and I'll walk you through everything. But when you say you work with agencies, we've been we're a little bit skeptical because we invested and we got burned. Okay, if I move past that and I'm just play it cool and move forward with the process, I'm gonna have trouble at the end, because it's something that I leave an open loop, but it's not a good open loop. So what I do in these cases is, I don't want to handle heavy objections, but all I need is a subtle nudge. Oh yeah, that's not a problem. A lot of people come to us for that. It can be as simple as that, but it's a tiny certainty injection that I'm showing them that they're in the right place. So I'm going to say that again. Yeah, I just thought what you had to say is interesting. But yeah, I want to see what you guys have, because I'm in a special industry, or my industry is a little bit different, or I'm diabetic and I'll lose weight pretty hard. Oh yeah, a lot of diabetics have come to us for that. That's not a problem. Yeah. And I'll move on to the next question. So I'm not making it a big deal. I'm not saying it to sell them. I'm just commenting back. I'm deflecting their comment and I'm moving forward. But that shows leadership. It tells them, hey, I got you. Let's continue. And it doesn't have to happen in the beginning of the call. It can pop up in any second of the call, but I have to be prepared. In any phase of the call, but I have to be prepared. Now, let's move into something more advanced. And I want you to be a little bit careful if you've done this, if you haven't done this before, tread lightly. But we're going to talk about emotional hooks and how can we start planting ideas before they come up. So how can we start pre-handling fear before it ever comes up? So the way I do that is, let's say I start asking present status questions, situation questions. What are you currently doing to lose weight? How long have you been doing it that way? Is there a specific reason you chose to do that? And I'm getting all the answers and everything is great. What I can do at that stage is, and the script starts. Yeah, and I really enjoy these conversations, Chris, because you're in a transitory period. Like, you're about to go from someone who doesn't necessarily have control of their health and they're just getting along, or they're just going by the diet of the week, having a structured program to actually turn into the athlete that they want to be. And I'm not just accepting someone. It's going to come with some uncomfort, as with any change. It's an uncomfortable journey, but I really enjoy these conversations because they realize like what type of person that they will become and all the benefits that come with it. Are you with me on that? That's all I need to do. I'm going to go through it again. Don't worry. Let's go through a different example. Now, let's say I'm selling a coaching program from someone who works in 9 to 5, or he's an employee, or he's a contractor and he wants to start their own business. What I can use there is, and I really enjoy this conversation, Chris, because you're about to go from someone who's taking orders to taking control of their destiny. And for sure, it's an uncomfortable journey. Like, there's going to be failure, there's going to be uncomfortable moments, but it's because of those uncomfortable moments that it's where we install that entrepreneur mindset, so we can become the masters of our fates and really have the impact that we want to have. Are you with me when I say that? The moment that they say yes, they've accepted that hook. What I've done is I've planted the idea that at that stage, they've turned into an entrepreneur. And what do entrepreneurs do? They take risks. So they will be more open to taking risk by investing into my services. Is everyone with me on that? It's a little bit more advanced. I'm planting ideas now. Cool. It works across anything that we're selling. It works across B2B. Like if I'm selling software. And I really enjoy these conversations, Mr. CEO, because it shows me that you're a company that doesn't necessarily accept status quo and wants to look at the company that they can become. Like, it's an interesting transitory period, wanting to go from 7 figures to 8 figures. And you already know the spiel. Like, you've been a CEO for 20 years. There's gonna be some uncomfortable moments and some risk taking, but you realize the rewards. There is no ceiling to the rewards with the technology we deploy. Are you with me when I'm saying that? Yes, I move forward. So the structure of it is essentially, I really enjoy these conversations, or what you're saying really resonates with me. because you're in a transitory period. Essentially, I'm painting the journey for them. You're about to go from your current situation, which is you yesterday, to the you 12 months from now. Well, you're happier, you've achieved this, you've achieved that. And it's an uncomfortable journey, and it's gonna take some risks. But our clients realize that they're putting themselves in the best possible position to become who they can become. The big idea here, other than that I'm, of course, planting beliefs and everything, is that I want you to see that I'm not hard selling them. And it's actually a qualifying statement, because I'm letting them know that it is going to be an uncomfortable journey. It's going to be a hard journey. I'm not lying to them by any means. It's not what I'm doing it for. I'm telling them the truth. It's going to be an uncomfortable journey. Right? So this is how we're able to start planting emotional hooks. So I guess let's take a pause. Any questions? These are different ways to pre-handle fear objections. Any questions based on pre-handling so far? Because we're gonna go into how to handle the fear objection. Andrew, please.
Yeah, where in that conversation are you inserting the emotional hook? Is it just kind of in the flow of if something comes up?
No, you can have it right after your situation questions. Right before you start tapping into their problems and their pains, that's when you do it. Because essentially you're drawing the gap, you plant the idea of who they can become, but now we're not there yet. So let's chat about what's preventing you from getting there. But you can also, yeah, I was just thinking if I had that recording on my YouTube, but I don't. Like whenever you notice that there is some uncertainty on their end, you can use it, right? And you can reframe their mindset. For example, yeah, if during the conversation something comes up, yeah, and I'm kind of like hesitant, but I know I need help. Like you don't accept that. Yeah, I'm hesitant, but I need help. Because if you drop 6,000, 7,000 price point, do you think that they'll be braver or more afraid if they already have more uncertainty? If they already have uncertainty. So what I'll do is I'm gonna do a light reframe. I'm gonna say, yeah, it makes sense that you're hesitant because we're still thinking from the perspective of the person that we are today, right? And that's the transformation that we have to make together to get you to start thinking as the person that you can become, don't you think? That's all I have to say. Simple reframe. It makes sense that you're feeling that way because you're looking at things from the perspective that you currently have, from the, let's say, employee mindset, or from the mindset of someone who doesn't work out, right? And it's perfectly fine. Like, it makes sense because you haven't had help. But that's part of the work that we're going through together with clients, that we have to get them to start thinking as the person that they can become. And that's why I enjoy these conversations, because they really see, like, once they commit themselves to the journey, they're able to see how much more potential, how much impact they can have, not just with their bodies, but with their performance overall. Can you see that overall? Yes, I can. So I want to use words like commit to the journey, commitments, the person you can become. Does that make sense, Andrew? Anything else on the pre-handling?
Yeah, I have a question. So I don't want to get too off topic, but the main objections are fear, money, and value, right? Is that the...
So you have value, money, which is, money can be logistics or fear. And you have time also.
Logistics and time. Okay. And
Like
then,
the fourth one is a smoke screen. Yeah.
yeah, so not real objections or anything. So, and then this technique, obviously, it's something you don't want to use a bunch throughout for different things. So you're primarily picking, like, does this work just for that one, or do you use it for others as well?
You can use the emotional hooks in all your conversations.
Okay.
Because it can be part, you pre-handle it, like you pre-handle that fear, that uncertainty. Cases where you won't use it is when someone comes in hot and heavy and they're an A-type personality. Because these people will want to get straight to the point, and your job primarily would be disarming the entire conversation, disarming them and reframing them to talk about their problems, because these are people who are harder to open up. So they're going to keep asking for information and price, and our jobs, our focus primarily is to reframe them and disarm them to talk about themselves and their problems. So we can take them through the process and we can then present. Cool. Anything else before we move on?
So what would you do if when you ask, "Are you with me?" they say no?
Yeah, which part didn't stick with you? My accent doesn't help, I know.
Gotcha. So you basically just find out what their concern is at that point and just
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, what didn't land for them? Because there might be a deeper concern. Typically, 99% of people will say yes there because I didn't sell them anything.
Mhm.
I'm just essentially coaching them on how to think. So if they reject that frame, it's something that I did upstream that maybe triggered some resistance, but it's a good thing that they rejected me, because that resistance would have come later on. So I can catch it there, see what's up, and then continue.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool, absolutely. So let's move on. Let's say the investment is 10,000 to get you into the best shape of your life. Of course, don't use that terminology, right? I'm just being quick here for the sake of the call. How would you like to proceed from here? Let's say we ask for the sale. Yeah, it all makes sense, but I'm not in a position to do it right now. Right? That's typically how the fear objection comes up. It's not that they'll sometimes they will tell you, okay, sometimes I'm just scared to move forward. But in most cases, it won't come up. Like, because when we're fearful, we're closing up. And you'll notice it when a money objection comes up. Like, you can notice from their body language. Like, if a person is open and they'll be like, yeah, I love it, I just don't have the money. That's a money, and they're open and they're like, they have the look of they're desperate to do it. It's just they don't have the money. It's a money logistics, and you will still handle it. It doesn't mean that we're giving up. It's just that if their body language is open and they give you a money objection, it's typically logistics because they want to do it. But when we're fearful, what are we doing? We want to shield ourselves, right? We close down, like we shrink. So let's say the money objection comes up. How would we typically handle it? And this is because a lot of people, what they say here is, besides the money, would you do it? I want to give you a little smoother terminology that can uncover the fear objection is, yeah, that's not a problem. If you did have the money, would you do it? What is that going to do? Why am I changing the language there? Who's going to tell me? So the language change is, besides the money, would you do it? I want you to use, if you did have the money, would you do it? What is that language shift is doing? Now, what's the difference?
Determining if it really is a money problem.
Yeah, because if it's fear, absolutely. So if you did have the money, would you do it? Well, I have the money, but and what that comes after the but, it's typically, but I don't think it's the right timing, but I'm having other expenses. I have to think about it. I have the money, but once they say I have the money, it's fear. Like there is no other objection, right? It's either value, which if I've done a good job and I'm getting my commitment questions right up top, I've eliminated that option. If they say I do have the money, it's straight up fear. So if you did have the money, would you move forward? Yeah, I mean, I have the money, but at that point, go back to the story in the beginning. What do I want to do? I want to normalize it. I want to show them that it's normal to feel that way. So, and you can use that language, but I want you to be careful with it. This is advanced stuff. So once they say, I have the money, it's just that the timing is off, this is off, this is blah, blah, blah. What I want you to say is, yeah, I totally understand, and what just happened was supposed to happen. Why am I saying that? What just happened was supposed to happen.
Same thing, that emotional hook normalizing thing where you're saying you're making them feel okay about being uncomfortable like they are, right?
Exactly. And what does that typically do? It's going to make them less uncomfortable, right? Because I'm not blaming them, because a lot of people, if you are, but are you committed? But you told me you were, but you told me you have all those problems. Now you don't want to solve them. No, I always want to show them that I'm on their side of the table. Because what's a fear objection? It's like we threw them into a haunted house and they're fearful, right? So they're frozen in place. Like they're fear. So what do we want to do? They don't need another boogeyman, because what are they gonna do? They're gonna become even more fearful. They need a guide, they need a leader, someone to lead them out of that haunted place. So I want to show them that it's okay. And what I can say is, yeah, what just happened was supposed to happen. And again, the second part is, I would even, and it's perfectly fine to have some sort of, I'm not going to say fear. I'm not going to label it that hard. I'm going to say, and it's perfectly normal to have some uncertainty. In fact, I would call you a psychopath if you didn't feel this way. I'm going to throw in some humor there, and a lot of people in that state will crack up. And this is where you start winning them over. Because you see that you're not buying, they see that you're not buying into their fear. You show them that they're part of a process, a repeatable process that you have, not just to overcome their fear objection, but to get them results. That's the confidence that you have to show there. That's why I'm being humorous. I would call you a psychopath if you weren't a little bit fearful. It's normal to feel that way. And now a nervous laughter will burst up, but it's their defense mechanism starting to drop. So the next step is, and it makes sense to feel this way, because we all make, going back to, if we haven't used it right above, we can use it here. We all make decisions based on our current perspective, the perspective that we have today. But if we always make decisions based on the perspective that we have, what are we always going to get? I want to make it engaging. What are we always going to get? They're going to say, well, we're going to get exactly what we have. Yeah. Now I'm going to move into an analogy. I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a baby bird can only, leave the nest by taking a leap of faith. Do you think it knows how to fly and it's feeling all confident and it just leaps into the void? No. but it can only fly once it leaves the nest. It cannot fly unless it takes that leap. So fear can stop us or it can drive us. So, and that's where I want to check if what I'm saying is landing. So I'm going to say, we can allow fear to stop us, or we can let fear guide us. From you, Chris, like from your perspective, what do you feel puts you in the best possible position to get you to having the successful business that you want? Oh, yeah, I want to. No, it's, it's not allowing fear. Why not, though? Well, if I allow fear, I'm going to stay exactly where I am. Okay, so what do you feel you need to do to put yourself in the best possible position so we can get to outcome? Yeah, I have to do it. Okay, so if you allow me, where should we go from here? If they say yes, of course, we continue. Now, what happens if they say no? I'm going to continue with another loop. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go to consequence, but it can feel a little bit rough and rushed. So what a lot of people do is, yeah, but what happens if you're not able to overcome that fear and you stay exactly where you are, blah, 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 blah. But it can feel, unless we lead them there properly, it can feel a little bit rushed. It can feel a little bit abrupt, especially at that fearful state. So what I want to do is reframe, because what are they fearful about now? About investing, about my product, about my solution, right? So I want to reframe them to what? To their problem, to their present pain, to the reason that they are on the call for. So what I'm going to ask is, that's not a problem. And again, I'm asking all of these questions because I want you to win. How long have you been thinking about making a change? I've been thinking about making a change for 3 months now. Okay. And all those 3 months of you not making a change, what do you feel you've missed out on? In terms of, depends on what you're selling, revenue, in terms of energy, in terms of time with your family, in terms of damages, it depends on what we're selling. Oh, I've missed out on this and this and this. Okay. So I should probably ask, you having lost all that for 3 months, do you want to allow that fear? Do you want to allow that fear to continue to cost you this and this and this for the next 3 months and the next 3 months after that? Or do you want to back yourself so we can start actually capturing the opportunity? I'm putting them in a crossroads so they can make a decision. And then I continue that loop. I go back to the loop. What do you feel puts you in the best possible position? I'm asking for the sale again. The alternative, if I see that has not landed well, is, do you want to allow that fear to continue to cost you those 3 months? No. What happens if you do, though? That's where I inject consequence. What happens if you do allow that fear, though, and keep you stuck in place, and you keep missing out on this and this and this for the next for the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? Well, I'll keep missing out on this, I'll keep missing out on that, I'll keep missing out on that. Are you okay with that scenario playing out? No, obviously. Okay. So what do you feel you need to do to actually back yourself and commit and act, not allow that fear to keep you frozen, but act because of that fear? Because you know that acting because of that fear is gonna help you win. I'm gonna pause because we're going through a lot. Questions so far. We've gone through 2 different reframes or objection handling frameworks.
Have you ever tried consequence to go positive? Like, well, what would happen if you overcame your fear and, and get them to buy into that? I mean,
Well,
have you tried that?
I'll give you another framework right after this. We're not jumping ahead. We're not jumping ahead right into that, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. Yeah. Andrew.
Yeah, the one that I've been using first is what's more risky. So can you explain to me why maybe that's not the best move in this scenario?
You can't use risky. It's just another variation. There are a lot of tools. It's just another tool.
Okay.
Where the risky can come in, instead of just jumping into what's more risky, is first reframe them to the present pain. So what had you considering making a change in the first place? Or how it's gonna come. Yeah, how long have you been thinking about making a change? I've been thinking about making a change 3 months. What do you feel you've missed out on these 3 months? This I've been missing out of, 5,000 a month. Okay, well, what do you feel is more risky? Do you feel it's more risky to stay exactly where you are and continue missing out on 3,000 in revenue every single month and allow fear to keep you in place? Or is it more risky to act despite that fear and use that fear instead of an obstacle, turn it into a weapon, so you can start capturing that 3,000 in revenue, get that help that you need so you can do this, do this, do this. What do you feel is more risky in that scenario? So that carries a lot more weight because that scale now, it has everything on this side of the pain. It has everything that we've calculated together. Those 3 months that have been missing out on this past year or this past 5 years that they have been thinking about making a change. So it hits much better. But that's a great point. Yeah, you can either go consequence or you can either go the risky route.
Okay.
Cool. So let's look at the third thing is, and it's perfectly fine that it's perfectly okay to feel that way. May I ask what's specifically coming up for you that cause you to feel that way? Yeah, I'm fearful because what if I fail, right? Yeah, and of course, if we only consider the scenario of failure and the scenarios of failure, I can help you put a list together. We can do it right here, right now. But have you considered what would you do if you couldn't fail? Have you considered how that reality looks like? Because what's the worst case scenario? And now explore it with them. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, you invest 3,000, you don't get this, and you've lost 3,000, but you get to keep the system, you get to keep this, you get to keep that, to even continue on your own. Worst case scenario. But what's the best case scenario? You're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. But I don't want you even to think best case scenario. What's the average case scenario that happens for our clients? You're not going to lose 20 pounds, which is best case scenario. You're going to lose 10. You're going to still have all that energy. You're going to have this, have that, just like our other clients. And that's the average case scenario. So what should we do? And that's kind of like of course, we can go on for hours, but that's a nice way if you want to do 3 and then call it like book another meeting, like explore all the scenarios with them. Like, what's the worst case scenario? What does it look like? You get to keep the systems, you can keep doing that, doing that, doing that. And it depends on your offer, you can say, and we'll keep working with you so we can actually get, so you can actually get results. That's worst case scenario. But have you considered what the best case scenario looks like? It's this. But let's not even put the best case scenario. What would be the average, an average scenario, which happens every day for our clients? They're able to do this, they're able to do that, to do that. So what do you feel puts you in the best possible position here? Just making decisions based on the worst case scenario, or making decisions according to the most probable scenario? Questions, doubtful points.
Would it be okay to maybe also, I was just realizing, because you're trying to make them a part of the process and just say, hey, you know, that fear you're feeling, that's not me, that's you putting that pressure kind of on you. Would that be too much? Would they run?
Yeah, because
me, I'm just asking questions. That's you, you know, wrestling with yourself right now, you know, kind of a thing. I don't know.
logically it makes sense, but it feels like we're pointing fingers and we're blaming them for feeling that way, right? And it's not a good place to be. Because I'm always positioning it, especially when it comes to fear, not as a you and me thing, as a we thing. Like we're in this together. Questions, concerns, and it doesn't have to be only fear objection. Role plays, anything else that we want to cover. I'm here for you.
So I've got a quick thing I want to go over real quick.
Can be a slow one as well.
What was that?
You can make it a slow one as well. We have time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think it'll be a slow one, but so last time we did the role playing, you gave me some pointers on the problem awareness section and how I can jump basically straight into how's that working for you so far,
Yeah.
or has that had an impact or an effect on you? And I've been running into, like, sometimes it works, and I don't know if it's my tonality or the way I'm wording it in that particular moment, but sometimes I'm getting like weird responses. So I'll say, you know, having these rats, you know, running around for the past week or so has that had an effect on you? And they'll kind of like trip over their words for a little bit, and then they'll just stop, take a breath. And this happened like 3 times. And they'll look at me and they'll go, what do you mean by an effect? Or, you know, what do you mean by an impact? Or occasionally they'll just say, no, I don't think this had an impact on me.
Yeah, in that case, it's probably triggering resistance. But what I want to make it more specific to their scenario, right? So I want to say, well, you guys having the rats around in the, where do they typically have rats running around? In the attic? Where do they have it? Where do they have them?
So usually they'll end up seeing them like directly outside, so like in the backyard, or they'll be hearing them in the attic is the most common.
And you guys having rats running around your attic, how's that impacting the family though?
Okay. So just make it
You
look.
have to answer, right? Like we're hearing, we cannot sleep, or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think maybe the word effect doesn't click. So, and because it's a yes or no question, is that having an impact? Because having something running in your house, it's gonna have an impact. So don't ask if it has an impact.
How is
Say,
it having?
how is that impacting you guys or the family, or how's it impacting your household, if I may ask?
Gotcha. So you think maybe I was just wording it too vaguely? It needs to be more specific.
Yeah, I don't know your tonality or how you led up to it, right? So
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I just need to work on that a little bit more then.
Yeah, yeah,
And it
Awesome.
also seems like going from is to how, right?
yeah.
You're forcing them to have to answer, right?
Yeah, because it's a problem that they have. Like, it's not like someone wants to have rats running around and it's not having an impact. Like, you're there for a reason. So how's that impacting you guys? It's not an if, it's a how.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is when I'm actually talking to the customers, I do a lot better job actually asking the open-ended questions. But every time I try and recap it to you, I always, for whatever reason, change it back to the closed end. I don't know why I do that. It's
Okay.
so weird.
It's okay. Yeah, and with that question, you can remove also, especially for what you're selling, you can remove the obvious answer. So besides the rats keeping you up at night, how's that affecting you guys?
Right.
So this brings more context to it. Like, besides keeping you up at night, which could be an obvious answer, if they've told you so, like how's that affecting you? Or the effect, you can go a layer deeper, and you can, if they say, it's keeping us up at night. Oh, how often do you have to stay up because of all the rats and everything? It's been the case for 60 days. Okay, has that been affecting you guys, like, staying up at night or having to wake up? So you can ask the effect based on the problem, not the symptom, the rats, but based on the problem that the rats created.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
And
And
it
then,
depends on the conversation. That's why I'm giving you, different, different options here.
right. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And when it comes for to probing and clarifying, like, how many questions should I be asking? Should I just be following that as far as they'll let me go? Or is there I really need to set a limit? Otherwise they're going to feel strangely about it.
No, I mean, it depends on what we're trying to get. So if you're getting a cause, other than I have rats at my house, it's keeping us up at night. Okay, how's that impacting you? Well, the kids are scared, or this happens, or I cannot have relatives, or something. Like, you're there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not about how many questions, it's get a deeper problem rather than I just saw a rat one day.
All right. Excellent. Well, I think that clears it up for me for right now. It just a matter of continuing the process.
Good. Let's continue the process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
Of course. What else? What else do we have?
I would have a quick question then, maybe if you could just like a basic low level, just to help me understand the value objection, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So how is that showing up? Like, how do you know it's a value objection, first of all?
Well, I'm not sure, but I just know because I sell flooring and it can be $25,000, $40,000. I don't know. Some people just, not too many, because I'm good at asking a lot of questions, but I'm assuming that maybe I'm just not recognizing it in the first place. But I would assume that once you've gone over the money, like I've had some people say, oh, wow, that, $9,000, that's a lot more than we were thinking it was, which I think is more of a logistics response, because they weren't closed down, like you said. They were like, oof, we're going to have to start saving some pennies, and we think we're going to prioritize this over that. So it's also in some ways a value objection, because they're going to prioritize this versus that. I just don't know, I guess.
Yeah, so let's go through that scenario, right? Whoa, it's way more. We had only, I don't know, 2,000 and it's 9,000. Yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. I guess besides I guess if you did have the money, would you move forward with the installation so you can do the carpeting in your living room and this, so you can have guests at summer, so you can, whatever they said above. I always want to tie it to the outcome, right? So whatever they said during solution awareness and building their vision, I want to include it there. So if you did have the money, would you move forward so we can install the flooring so you can have your, I don't know, your grandkids during summer?
So it's the same question. It's just smoking out a different. You're determining what the actual objection is at that time, and then
I'm just determining. Oh yeah,
you're just walking them back to, because you're also saying previously in the conversation. So it looks like what we're talking about here would be a solution for you.
Mhm.
You know, do you think that it looks like it would be the answer, you know, to what you're looking for? And if they confirm that, but then you loop back around, and then they're like, you know what? If it was 2,000, it would, but I'm not going to spend that much money. Now
Exactly.
you're
Now we know.
or if it's like, no, I'm just scared, or so you're just, yeah, okay.
Exactly. So
Or
I
time.
want to get clarity first. So once they say, yeah, but we've budgeted only 2,000. Now it's a value objection, like there's a value gap, right? Because they've allocated 2,000, I'm at 9,000. So how do we handle that? How can we handle that? That's not a problem. How did you come up with the 2,000 amount? Just so I understand. So is it they saw it with competition? Is it they out of thin air? Like, how does that show up? Did they do it once in the 70s and now they want to do it for the same money? Like, what's coming up here? So depends on what they're gonna say, or even if they don't say anything, I don't know. Let's say they don't say anything. I don't know. We just had 2,000. Yeah, but I mean, I guess from your perspective, what would be the alternatives?
Right.
Like,
So
we're gonna, I don't know. We haven't had 2,000. And I'm assuming that they have the money here, right? Like they said, we only budgeted 2,000. It's not, I only have 2,000. If I pay 2,100, I don't have money to pay the rent, right? Because that's going to come up as logistics, you handle it as a logistics objection. That's different. So what I'm going to do at that point is I'll say, yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, how did you come up with the 2,000? I don't know. It's what we had in mind. Yeah, it's no problem. I guess what would be the alternative options, just so I understand? Maybe hire contractors, try to see if we can do it by stages with someone cheaper. Yeah, you could, but may I make a suggestion? Sure. In your mind, I guess, is it more risky to invest 2,000 and go with the cheapest possible option and the risk doing I don't want to say half-assed, and do a subpar job and having to reinvest to fix it again to end up spending more money? Or is it more risky to come up with the additional amount to make sure that we're using the right material, we're getting the job done, to have a floor that's going to last another 30 years? Like, which is more risky in your mind there?
okay. So kind of like a mini rationale, kind of revisit of the rationale and then roll into like a consequence or
Yeah, with the risky, I want them to see, I'm painting the picture of they can go the cheap route and then redo it in 2 years, or having to fix it again in the same year because they didn't do a good enough job. Or do they actually want to put their money to come up with a difference, to go with a proven solution so they don't have to do it in another 30?
kind of reframing to build the value.
Exactly. because that if it's a true value objection, that's my like it's either build up the value or I have to go back to the pain, because it means that I didn't do a good enough job up front. So how I do that is, it wasn't a problem. How did you come up with the 2000? Blah, blah, it's what we had saved up. I can understand that. I guess what had you considering change floors to begin with? Can you remind me? So you have to go back to the problem and see if there's more there. Again, it's a scale, right? To see if I can stack more on the problem side. And then the third step is I can start poking holes at their plan. Well, if you go with a contractor, how are you going to know if they put enough insulation? I'm just pulling stuff out of my behind, right? How do you know where the material exactly comes from? Or how are you going to know that they're not gonna leave any openings and risk having that subpar job done? How are you going to know that? They don't. And all of these are knowledge gaps, and you get them to understand that it's less risky to go with you because you're an expert at this.
And you can use the fear objection by building it up on the alternative, right? So
Yeah, but I'm not setting fire to their plan. I'm inserting doubts. I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? You guys suck because you go with a contractor which is gonna F you over. No, I'm not saying that, but how are you going to know if they use the right material? How are you going to know that they're gonna use real wood and not the cheap stuff that after a couple of months you drop a glass of water and it stains? But you're opening their perspective on those scenarios. Does that make sense?
it does. Yep.
Okay, cool. Anything else, ladies and gents? Questions, concerns? Going once, 100% here, appreciate you. Going twice. Awesome. Well, good to see everyone. That's pretty much all I had, and I'll see you next Sunday. Same place, same time. Have a good one.
You too, Chris.